Okay, welcome to the November 19th, 2020 Parks and Recreation Commission special meeting. This is a teleconference meeting with commission members, city staff, members of the public participating remotely to ensure proper social distancing in this federal, state, and local emergency. I would like to introduce the staff and commission members present. Commissioners present include myself, Jennifer Baskin, Christopher Harris, Commissioner Sarah Staley Shank, Commissioner Mark Bryman, Commissioner Jennifer Johnson, Commissioner Peter Diepenbrock, Commissioner Dana Payne. Oh, let's see who else. Community Services Director, sorry, I have a little bit of an echo, Sean Reinhart, Assistant Community Services Director Adrian Lee Bird, and Senior Office Assistant Linda Munguia. Today, we are actually going to go out of order from the published agenda here to accommodate our presenters' schedule. So we'll start first with regular business, D1. And up is to approve the Parks and Recreation Commission minutes for the meeting of October 28th, 2020. Does anyone have any edits, comments to the commission meeting minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
All right, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Great. So I guess we'll now vote on it. So we'll have Linda do a roll call.
Yeah, Chair Baskin?
Yes, agree.
Vice Chair Staley Shank?
Yes.
Commissioner Bryman?
Yes.
Commissioner Diepenbrock?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Approve, yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes, sorry.
And Commissioner Payne?
Yes.
Okay, motion to approve the minutes has been passed.
Great. So next we can review and update the Parks and Recreation Commission agenda calendar. Just some background there. I believe we did, if everyone was able to take a look at that, I'm just looking to see it. I think some changes from last month is that we actually did assign commissioners reports each month. So we welcome anyone to comment if it doesn't fit in your schedule or if you have a preference on a different month because of, I would normally say activities that you are attending, but things might be a little bit different or things that you're attending virtually. And I believe we did actually, after last meeting, include the 6-month report on the pickleball pilot program and some other items. So welcome any comments right now or
I have a comment on January. My hope was that we would be able to have a discussion at that time on the communications component that we've added to our strategic plan and communicate. It's a dialogue that I've been having, of course, from my pulpit for years. I don't have any insight yet as to what the city proactively does related to communication strategy in which to really inform what my recommendations might be. And so, I can come forward and make, a plan or a recommendation about, look, here's what I think communications could look like on behalf of Parks and Rec. Here's what I've observed that best practices are related to other communities, not even, locally, regionally, nationally, things of that sort. But I feel that it would be, I don't want to just do the work if it's not going to actually go somewhere. So my ask is to Sean and Adrian, how can we have a conversation about communications in a way that will actually inform and perhaps lead to action?
That's a great comment, Commissioner. Thank you for bringing it up. Later on the same agenda, one of the report items is the Library and Community Services Strategic Plan for 2020 and beyond. And one of the major sections in there is robust, transparent, two-way communication with the community. And there's a number of like tasks associated with that. This is a draft strategic plan, so that might be a good place to start to kind of look at how that plan is taking shape just for the department to inform the discussion in January.
Yeah, well, so here's the deal. So this is what I do for a profession. So I'll look at it, but what I'd like to know is how is what I then bring forward to suggest what we do for Parks and Rec potentially going to result in something that is probable on behalf of Parks and Rec? Like, do we have a team, does the city have a team that focuses on communications? Does the Park and Rec staff have communications as part of their remit? So, I guess there's a couple different components to this. One is I'm happy to bring forward that information or a presentation in January if I can get information about that in advance of that. If not, I might want to delay that until I can dovetail into a better understanding, Jennifer, of what the city actually does.
Sarah, I guess one question I have for you, is it two-part? One, us as sort of a think tank or a commission identifying the comms needs that, or where we've fallen short. We feel that there are places where we've fallen short from our experience of being on the commission and being in the community, and identifying those, which I know we may have done at our offsite. So I don't want to double the conversation or the work if we have some of those bullet points already identified, but kind of where we've fallen short, where we think we need a more robust communication strategy and plan. And then also a second part, kind of what is the city's mandate, capabilities, plan? Are those two things that are separate conversations, or do they all have to be kind of at once and one is before the other?
I would rather dovetail it into one conversation because the content drives the creative, right? So I think it's one discussion. And I just want to make sure that whatever we're doing informationally actually leads to action. Otherwise, it's just information. So I don't want to bring forward an audit and an understanding and a pitch if it doesn't have the runway in which to actually do something. So
if I could maybe offer a suggestion here, then perhaps it is a two-stage conversation. So maybe adding communications to the calendar in February as well. So in January, what Adrian and I can do is put together kind of an overview of sort of our current status, how communications are handled in the city within the department, as well as how it is connected to the city's overall efforts. We certainly can point to some gaps that are there, so we'll include that in the report.
Sure.
And it'll be mostly just like the information sharing piece.
Sure.
And then we could come back in February, having absorbed that information, then the commission can have a little more robust discussion about, hey, what's possible, what do we recommend, and how, we can help.
That
would
sounds
that
great.
kind of satisfy? Okay.
Yeah,
let's
that
plan to do
sounds
that.
great. The other thing I would just put out there is, Sean and Adrian, if you guys have the bandwidth in January to have that conversation with me independently, we could maximize then perhaps a moment together if it made sense. But I'm separating it's fine if you just want to bring it then. However you see fit.
I would suggest maybe all of the above, so that the full commission has the benefit of the conversation, but given your specific expertise in this area, Adrian and I would welcome a conversation with you about it in
Groovy,
preparation.
thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so then that would mean that the communications deliverable in January would come from staff, and that my strategic recommendation would come in February. But I do look forward to connecting on that. And I will bring a commissioner's report in general in January. Thank you.
Great. I'm glad we have a good plan around that, because I know that that's near and dear to all of our hearts, and we have expertise on the commission. So be a nice accomplishment, or at least project for us to continue to work on. Does anyone else have any comments on some of the other items and or months that they have been assigned to speak? Jennifer Johnson.
It was my understanding that we were going to not have a discussion about inclusive programming today, and that was going to be moved forward. Oh, okay. So I see it down there as an unscheduled future meeting item.
So what we did was we had planned it for January. Right now, all of our programming, we're actually looking for reactivation in summer. And so in terms of actual classes happening, we want to do something closer to that. But what I can say in terms of just planning around inclusive programming, right now, the city is actually currently doing an audit of all the facilities to make sure they're ADA compliant, and we're working on facility improvements. So that's one project the staff is working on. And then we're looking at some very light, seeing if we can do some virtual kind of socialization groups online, which I know people are all doing Zoom from school, so I don't know how popular that would be, but some groups for youth as well as some for special needs families, if they would like to have a group of their own or join. But otherwise, I think in terms of like adaptive programming, which is a little bit different, we're moving further out just because we're not able to do any kind of programming right now, especially with the tier rollback.
Am I able to respond to that?
I think, yeah, yep, yes.
Okay, so my response to that is there is currently programming going on. And I don't feel that there is any reason to not include or consider inclusive programming, given that some programming is occurring. I also do not think that it is a good idea to wait until after all of the programming planning is done to consider how we can include people with disabilities. Finally, when you are talking about the availability of social groups or parent support groups, it seems to me that a good place to start would be identifying where the needs are. There are already some supports in some of those areas that are in existence. And as we discussed several meetings ago, Menlo Park is a small city that cannot do everything, but it can certainly look at where the gaps are. And my belief is that if this is done in a vacuum with only staff participating, the needs of the community are not going to be identified accurately.
If I could offer, that's all great input. And since it looks like we're talking about, or at least Commissioner Johnson, you're suggesting getting this item actually onto the calendar with a date attached to it as opposed to some future date, that works great. Maybe a similar two-step process would be in order. So first would be Adrian and I to put together a report of like what we are doing and what we currently have, either pre-COVID or currently, or in some initial thinking post-COVID. related to inclusivity for people who are differently abled. And then just to kind of give a lay of the land. And then the commission can have some discussion about that and then bring it back the next month, maybe for some action steps. So that's just one way we could go about it, but couldn't agree more that it's an incredibly important part of serving the entire community. And, there's no time like the present to try to tackle it. So it's really, how do we
I've been
fit it in
trying
here?
to put it on the agenda for several months now, and I keep getting told that it's pushed off and now to some unnamed date.
Mhm.
And I think that if the library and community services really values this, that it should be at a sooner rather than later date, and it should happen before facilities are opening and planning for services are occurring, because we should be planning for services for our entire community. We already have services occurring in now that are not inclusive, and changes could be very easily made to those. I certainly would like for the city that I live in to consider being inclusive to my child and to his peers, because it has not been up until this point. And I have asked numerous times for this to be agendized, only to be told that it is going to be pushed later and later. So if this is something that is valued, I would like to see it valued and put on the calendar.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Looking at the calendar, I note that in just cognizant of fitting it into the commission's schedule here. I note in February that tentatively addressing institutional bias is kind of on the docket, and although it's distinct from what we're discussing as far as inclusivity, it's kind of in a similar sort of area of our discussions. So February could be an opportune time so that those things are kind of discussed on the same evening. And looks like the soonest opportunity, just looking at the calendar that's before us. But couldn't agree more. It's incredibly important, and especially if it's been deferred for quite some time. I would recommend getting it on the calendar.
I appreciate
yeah,
it.
and I apologize if you thought that I meant we were going to address it once we reopen. Right now, we're actually planning on what programming would be when we reopen, so it would be a part of that. And Alan is actually working on adaptive programming currently. We just didn't have enough to bring forward for this month. So it would definitely happen before the buildings reopen. That is the intent.
Well, it would need to happen during the planning process.
Yes, the planning
And
process, which is happening right now.
Hope that if Alan is working on this, that he is looking at the Parks and Recs master plan, where there were lots of points of community input about this, as well as inputs about community need.
And he's also been talking to Redwood City and I believe Palo Alto, just in terms of what's going on. But I think the point of having maybe a focus group or a poll, which would be really good too, to see what families do want.
So Jennifer, is that
Sure.
is that conversation in February seem
Yeah.
appropriate timeline?
Yes, thank you, Jennifer.
And I do think I agree with you, Sean, that I can see some similarities in the conversation of addressing institutional bias and inclusivity programming discussion. I think I might have been the person that maybe even suggested the addressing institutional bias for February. So if suddenly that meeting becomes too full of items and we felt like we wanted to push that later, I didn't have a strong reason as to why. But I think I remember from agenda planning, I might have put that there. So.
And that one will also be tied to the greater city effort, which is in the works right now. So depending on where that happens with the council, we'll shift it to where we have the most information to report out and get the conversation started.
Okay, great.
The only other thing I would add here, Linda, is to maybe also put a placeholder in March, since I think it's like maybe a two-part conversation to just kind of start it, or continue it, or take it to the next step, as the situation calls for. Just so you all are aware, the Library Commission has for some time had in its calendar to establish a diversity, inclusivity, and equity policy related to library services. And so just one potential tool or mechanism that this commission might consider is, discussing like a policy statement, sort of around that, just to make it very clear, who we are as a community and where we stand on that. So just food for thought. That's what the other commission has been working on as well.
And Sean, do you recall when that they're scheduled to have that conversation?
It was on their agenda in March of 2020.
March.
Yeah, and then the pandemic occurred, and then there was a delay. And I'll have to go back and look. I think it's actually occurring around the same time frame as this conversation we've just calendared, beginning of next year.
Because I would agree with Jennifer that it should happen sooner than later. If it's well into the new year, then we're kind of behind the eight ball. We're not addressing it in order to get most of the new year in, with respect to those changes.
Well, how about this? Just looking at rearranging the calendar here. In January, a pretty meaty item there is service adaptation post-COVID. That could probably push back a month or two to move the inclusive programming discussion up to begin in January, because that will inform the service adaptation plan anyway. And at this point, given the course of the pandemic, the implementation of a service adaptation plan is probably closer to the middle of 2021. So we could probably shift those two items around just to make time.
That sounds good. Our meetings tend to be at the end of the month anyway, right? So I hate to lose the entirety of February.
It's amazing how fast the time will fly from now till then, even though it is 2 months away. Yeah.
So we have inclusive programming discussion 3 months. Do we want to have it for January, February, and then move, say, the service adaptation post-COVID to March then? Okay,
Yeah, I think that makes sense. That's the right sequencing.
great.
And, I just hope in that case that there's also an opportunity for the richness of this team that's in front of you to also inform that. I know that, Adrian, you've been working very hard on a lot of our diversity and inclusion. It relates to a city, all that you have in front of you, with personal experience and family understanding as it relates to these target audiences is right here for the taking. I know Councilmember Mueller is certified in diversity inclusion, as am I. So formally. So, you have expertise in front of you that can also help inform this. And so I hope that that will also be tapped where we can bring forward and inform those who don't have this as a part of their remit typically.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any other edits, comments for the calendar?
Oh, just a heads up, maybe put it in unscheduled. We're not sure when, but typically the commissions give a report to the council. I don't know if it's already on there on the schedule, but maybe just so it doesn't get lost, that the council delayed receiving a number of those reports from the commissions. Just maybe just add that commission report to council so that we don't forget about it.
And I guess a quick question, when do we address like May, June, July, or those meetings? Are we just on a calendar? I know, I guess normally it used to be April to April.
This is your calendar, so you can add more months as you see fit. Yeah, if you want to start mapping out through later in the year, go for it.
I'm kind of hoping the world will be a very different place by May, but.
Oh, yes.
Jennifer?
Hi, Jennifer.
So I am assuming from what Sean and Adrian have said that the plan is to not have any facilities open during the spring, which I understand, and to, if everything is going well, maybe have facilities start opening in the summer. Is that about right?
I think that's the best educated guesstimate at this point in time.
No, I know nobody has a crystal ball. So, so Jennifer Baskin, I guess what I was thinking about is, if you did want to push the calendar out some months, and include, May and, through the summer, maybe, of what would need to be done or what we might need to discuss before facilities open. So what are some other steps that that might need to happen in the interim? That was all I was going to say.
I do think some of our work, well, I guess maybe Sean and Adrian can point out, but some of the items that we do have on our calendar, I guess, in this first quarter will dictate that. I think communications, at least us working on that, that's something that will carry on into the second quarter. Service adaptation, and it looks like also operations plans. So I don't know, at the top of my mind, I can't think of, unless anyone has some good verbiage as to what would be the next steps after that we can.
I don't know that I have good verbiage, but two things that I was thinking we should ask to add to unscheduled would be probably a report on transitional services, because right now the plan is to have a lot of senior programming move over to the ARC. And we're still trying to figure out what to do. Well, we may move some classes to the ARC, but we're also exploring some within neighborhood locations for current OHCC classes. So that would be good. And then the other item, now I can't remember, but just in response to when we are planning on opening, I sat on a really interesting call yesterday with the chief of health for San Mateo County, and she was feeling very optimistic. She said if you asked a month ago, she wouldn't have said that, but in the last couple of weeks she is. So I think best case scenario for us would be expecting to open in summer. It may get pushed back a couple months, but otherwise that's what we are planning for. And I can't remember the other item, but I'll mention it if I can.
Could it possibly be user groups? I don't know how often they speak to us, but clearly we haven't really had, a normal couple of seasons of user groups. So maybe at some point when we get closer to reactivating and allowing, user groups back on the fields in a normal way, whatever that may be.
Yeah, that would be
an update on that.
And Adrian, just to add to that, I mean, maybe an update. So if user groups want to give an update, but also I'm assuming they would be receiving information from staff about what the new guidelines would be at that point. So it would be user groups and pools and maybe classes of just what's coming from them into the community and what do they need to be doing differently. I mean, I'm sure staff has that communication with them, but I don't know if there's anything that commission needs to.
Right, and like new procedures types of things, right?
Yeah.
And you just reminded me of it. So the other one would be playground refresh updates, because we will be bringing the commissioners back into that. They have not started work on that yet, but they're moving forward with it. So once we hear from that, we will bring the subcommittee back in.
Can you clarify what you mean by, so at what stage are they currently? You said they're moving forward.
I think they are, let me think. I just was in a meeting the other day. I think they are talking about identifying a vendor to work with. So
We already have a vendor in contract.
I think they're changing it up. Sean, you were in that meeting, right? We're not doing design build. We're actually working with a landscape architect. So I think that's they've started the first conversation and that's it. They haven't done any. They're going to start doing like a site survey, and that's basically where they are in the project. But no design has happened.
But that phase is imminent. They kind of getting back on the horse to
Yes.
move. I forget specifically which. I think Willow Oaks was one that was.
Willow Oaks and Burgess were the next.
Right.
Yeah. So
There were site surveys done as part of the master plan, and there was there had already been a bit of work done moving forward. So I just want to make sure that the city isn't paying twice for contractors to reinvent the wheel when some things had happened before there was a transition.
Right. I think what they, so my wording might not be correct, but I think what they are trying to avoid with Nelon, do you remember when they were building and there was a bit of a pause because they found something underground? I think that full work wasn't completed. And so I think that's why they're bringing another group on to get that pre-work done before they start any design work.
That had nothing to do with the contractor at all. That was entirely due to PG&E not knowing where their own underground things were. The contractor had done everything correctly. That was PG&E's mistake.
Okay.
I believe there also were some grading challenges though at the site that since they didn't conduct a complete survey. So that was the PG&E, yes, but I think I recall hearing mentioned that they went to install and there were some issues because the site hadn't been graded because they didn't account for that. That was my understanding. That created some issues. And that was, I think, part of why they really want to make sure that that doesn't occur this time.
But it is the same project manager, Commissioner Johnson. So Karen is working on it. So I think there is some consistency between projects. So I think she's familiar with what happened with Nelon. And so they're getting some pre-work done, but they have not started any design work.
Okay, I guess I just want to make sure that the group who actually worked on Nelon Park doesn't get thrown under the bus because they did what they were supposed to do. There were delays for reasons that were beyond their control. In terms of a grading problem, the only thing I know about was the issue with the PG&E, and that the materials had to be slightly redesigned to accommodate some 4-foot limit. But the intention of council and the commission was that those 3 parks were going to be under contract with the same vendor, partly for efficiency purposes and cost savings, as well as that vendor is one of the top in the nation at designing inclusive playgrounds. And that was another very big consideration. So I just wanted to share that information in case that's helpful.
Thank you. And the result is stunning. The Nelon Playground, they did do a phenomenal job. And in fact, as I recall from the conversation in the meeting, the fact that it was done as a design build was to the benefit of the city because the contractor, the vendor, was responsible for, dealing with those unforeseen things, and they did. So definitely not taking anything away from them on that.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any other comments on any other items we should add to unscheduled or on the calendar?
I had a quick question. I'm not sure if it's something that we are a part of, but I did notice the Willow Interchange, the park that I think is still probably years away, but eventually going to be built on the Bellhaven side of that. I know it's a Caltrains project, but do we have any sort of hand in advising how best to utilize that space, or is that totally outside of our domain?
Well, you should. Why don't Adrian and I check in with Public Works on that and kind of find out where they are in that process. Some level of input would obviously be appropriate for this commission to provide, whether it's in the context of this commission or through some other process that Caltrans sets up. So thank you for reminding us about that.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Scrolling through. We don't have to vote on this item, correct? It was just a review and update.
It's
Okay.
just a working calendar for us. And then I also wanted to let you know that Evita's on. So whenever you want to roll back to presentations, she's available.
I would love to do that because we finished section D. So I'd love for Evita to present on the senior programming update. You have to let her in.
Okay, Avita, you should be able to unmute yourself. There we go.
Hi. good
Hello. Hi, can you hear me okay?
evening. Yes.
Perfect. Good evening. Thank you for having me on. I know Linda is going to share a quick document I put together for the Library Commission meeting that I'm also sharing with you guys. So just a little bit of a background before I jump into what we're doing right now is this is my almost 22nd year being here at Menlo Park as the director for the senior center, but this is the first time I've ever experienced such a dilemma of dealing with the COVID and serving our seniors without getting close to them and giving them a hug. So it's been very challenging for myself and all my staff. When March rolled around, about the 13th, we quickly had to close the shop and like with any of our programs, go to the patrons as opposed to having them come to us, which is what they're accustomed to. So we evaluated what are some of the most important issues and things that they would be needing immediately and started tackling them with the help of, at the time, Derek Schweigart, who was our director, and then also Adrian. We jumped in and worked on getting some things ready. So by Monday, we were ready to roll. Obviously, the biggest thing that affects all of our seniors and have been an issue for them has been the meals, because we had a pretty healthy group that would show up for the meals every single day, and now they had nowhere to go. So we started with about 15 or so, most frail, most needy seniors. Started delivering meals to them with the help of Samaritan House, whose kitchen is in San Mateo. We picked up meals from them pro bono, no cost to us, for the meals, and started delivering. And soon our numbers started growing, whereas right now we are at about 85 people that we serve Monday, Wednesday, Friday with double meals. So each day we're looking at about 170 meals that we deliver. And that has been growing a little bit. We're reevaluating the program. Hopefully with the new year have some suggestions and some good changes to make. Also, we collaborated with our partners next door, Facebook, and started getting vegetable boxes from their produce, mobile produce program way back in March, actually, and then expanded that program, whereas right now we have a box for every household that we deliver the meal to. So we're about, I think right now, 65 or so big, beautiful boxes full of vegetables and cheese and milk and things like that, pasta, that we also deliver every single Monday to our seniors. So that has been really helpful for them to also have some supplement for their meals, you know, and for dinners and things that we don't provide food for. So those are our two main meal type of programs. We also have Second Harvest Food Bank that we have always distributed food through the senior center, the groceries to them. And today we were out there again serving the food that comes in now in prepackaged boxes. So a box of produce, a box of goods that will not go bad, and chicken and you know, milk and eggs and things like that. So it's a whole wonderful selection of items. And our numbers that we're delivering right now is right about 200. We started much lower, but the numbers, as you can just imagine, with COVID continuing and people not getting, you know, the little tiny jobs that they might have had, or the paychecks. So it's the number and the demand is growing. And while we serve mostly seniors twice a month with this program, we also get a few non-seniors come in just because the need is there and they need food. So we don't turn them away. Coming along with all of these programs is our wellness checks that we do. And every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, to those people that we deliver the ready-to-eat lunches, we make phone calls to them prior to arriving to their doorsteps with the food. And it also gives us a chance to just checking in on them. Is everything going okay? Do you need anything, you know, health-wise? Any, you know, any issues? So we do these regular phone calls to people. In addition to that, we also have about 40 or so that between my staff, my main staff person and I, we make those calls so that we can also check in on people that are not getting food, but they have been our patrons. So again, just a wellness check, making sure they have everything they need and there's no issues. So we've had cases where people ended up in the hospital for one reason or another. So we helped them with the meals until they were back on their feet again. So there are cases like that comes through our wellness checks. With the help of the Foothill College, who provided a lot of our programs in the past, the instructors have been, instead of teaching the classes online because of the lack of technology for the seniors that we serve, they have been making packets, or producing packets, I should say, and lessons that they send to us weekly in lieu of their classes. And we copy them and make packets that we deliver to seniors. And that in collaboration also with our colleagues here in the rec department, that we create activity packets, activity guide, no, what is it called? It's Shelter and Play is what it's called. So it's a booklet of all wonderful activities, old photographs from the senior center, things like that. We deliver those to the seniors just because we know that they are stuck at home, they're missing that social engagement, and this gives them an opportunity to read stories about their fellow seniors, to keep up with, you know, some old pictures, who is ill, so maybe they can give them a call, you know. So it's a really good way of keeping their minds challenged, but at the same time connected without having them necessarily see each other. So it's been going really, really well. And again, thanks to the Foothills instructors as well as our colleagues. I want to also mention about Project Cheer, which is something we started pretty early on. And what it was is that, especially at the beginning where the numbers weren't that big, we would write letters and have youth my daughters, my staff people's daughters and sons, and just anybody, even the staff, would engage in writing letters and sending them via snail mail, U.S. Post Office, to the seniors, because they are the old-fashioned type. They're not the email or text type of a generation. So they were getting these wonderful letters, as you see also in the picture. That's relative of Irel, who's my assistant at the senior center. She made these beautiful paintings, wrote letters to the seniors, and we just mailed them out to them. And they love getting them. I can't tell you how appreciative they are of getting this mail they excitedly open. And sometimes they write back, sometimes they don't, but that's okay. I think it serves its purpose of, you know, just letting them know they're thought of and they're loved. And although we don't see them, you know, we think about them often. A couple other things to go over is we've been working with Center for Independence of the Disabled and putting packets of emergency supplies, flashlights, water, all kinds of necessary things together for seniors that really don't have anybody. So the most frail and the homebound, that we know they don't have anybody visiting them at all. So that in case an emergency happens, they have that handy. So there was a series that we did back in May, and then we did another series in September. So I think pretty much a lot of the people on our list have already been covered, and they have these wonderful bags of emergency supplies to help them in case the need arises. I think last but not least on my list, I have special events. And if anybody has ever been to our senior center, they know how big special events have been a part of our life with the seniors at the center. There was always some excuse to celebrate, something to do, and some party to have for them. And so unfortunately, because the center is closed, we decided that instead of that, we need to figure out how we can take this excitement back to them, let them look forward to having some fun, and then also just something to just give them a chance to see all the staff, because they don't see all the staff all the time. So one that we did is for Memorial Day, we did a collaboration with the Belhaven Action, where we went to the apartments. There's pictures of that there too. We went to the apartments on Willow. A local band played music, and the seniors came up to their balconies and they hung out and danced, and the band played in the parking lot, and it was just so much fun. And they had their flags going, and we used that as an opportunity to let them know all the things that we're doing for them. And if there's somebody that might be needing meals that we didn't catch, maybe here's a chance, you know, to let them know these are the things we're doing. Or if they need telephone calls, you know, here's the information. So that's one of the first things we did. The second one we just had, and the Dia de Las Muertos, Day of the Dead, is a very big celebration at the senior center, and it has grown over the years. And this year, not being able to host it, unfortunately, we had 5 different cars decorated with banners and big signs that said Dia de Las Muertos, staff dressed up, and we picked up some pastries from a local Mexican bakery. And we drove through the neighborhood in Belhaven, up and down the streets, and visited all of our seniors and then some, and played music, and a volunteer also in one of the cars played music. So just we brought the activity to them as opposed to having them sit back and say, oh, we didn't do anything this year. So it just worked out beautifully, and they all enjoyed. And So that was our way of, again, bringing what we have back to them and letting them know that we haven't forgotten them, despite the fact that the senior center doors are closed. And just a quick upcoming, we have our Thanksgiving meal that we are actually delivering tomorrow to 120 of our seniors. We're getting together tomorrow morning, and we purchased the food with a donation from Facebook. And we're getting them all ready and delivering them to people's homes so that they, again, once again, from a distance, see us and know that we think of them. And then also just so that they have something to look forward to for Thanksgiving. And the same will happen. We've hired the Santa who will be going door to door with us to our seniors' homes for right around Christmas time to deliver a small gift paid for by Facebook again, and just to have some fun and really take our programming outside of our facility walls to our patrons. I know I talked a lot and real fast, but I appreciate you listening and not falling asleep on me. Is there any questions, anything that you like to ask?
Thank you so much for a very positive and heartfelt work you've done, and a really good message. I think we were just talking about some of our favorite Parks and Recreation meetings and moments, and this is one of the brightest ones we've had since we sort of reactivated the commission again. So we really appreciate it, and I think, you know, paying attention to a sector of our community that probably feels very lonely and vulnerable at this time, especially during the holidays, especially when it's darker and colder, even though we're in California, is really, 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 really important. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. And in all honesty, they have no visitors. It's amazing. These poor people are sitting at their homes, and their, you know, only social thing was when they came to the senior center. So every time we go visit them and dropping them food, they actually get to see somebody, which is huge actually for their mental. So we're happy to be here and to be able to provide this. And thanks to the support of our managers and Samaritan House for sure. And then also Facebook, who's been very generous with us.
Absolutely.
I mean, thank you for your work. It's really special. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening also.
Did you have a question?
I'm sorry?
Did you have a question, Jennifer?
No, I just wanted to second what you said. Obviously, I know you have limited staff, and even with limited staff, you do an amazing job all year when the senior center is open. And you have really gone above and beyond to continue to do so much outreach to the seniors during this really difficult time. And I think recognizing their vulnerability and trying to offer them as many different services and opportunities, I am very grateful for the things that you're doing and that you're bringing to our community.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I couldn't have done it without my staff. They're not my staff is very small, but I wish they were here to hear this. So thank you so much. I appreciate that.
I agree. I just want to echo what everyone's saying. Just thank you for what you're doing and how amazing the work is. And I also wanted to just ask, it sounds obviously like Facebook is involved in a lot of this. And I saw, as someone who lives on the Belhaven side of Menlo Park, I frequent the Facebook mobile market quite a bit. And I noticed that they offer, now that in this Thanksgiving time, there's an option to donate a meal on the website when you order your weekly groceries. And I'm not sure if there's a place, I actually don't know where those donated meals go to, but if there's a way to partner and you can continue that, through past the holiday season and allow the community to donate not only meals to seniors, but I was also thinking, they do their flower bouquets or maybe
Yes.
some other type of things that you could have the option of donating to a senior in the community as something to brighten their day, like you were mentioning with the cards and things like that.
Mhm.
That's a great idea. And I hope to continue the work that we do together with them as well. They've been very generous, I must say, and just very accommodating. And so we are very thankful to them for everything.
Yeah, no, I think it would be pretty easy for them to put that as an option on the website.
Definitely.
And yeah, I think it would be utilized if it was there. So
That's a great
Yeah.
idea. Yeah.
I'll definitely pass it on to the organizer at their end too. Thank you so much, Dana.
Hold on one second. So Dana, you just reminded me of something I heard about today. So Second Harvest has made a decision that they are not going to accept food over the holidays, that they're only going to be accepting monetary donations. And this is just for staff safety as well as safety of our community members who are receiving those. But I'm not sure what a good way is to get out that message. I know that Second Harvest has worked closely with the senior center, and my son and I always used to go and do a big grocery store run. And I think that's a big tradition with a lot of Menlo Park residents. And I think Menlo Atherton High School was also involved with Second Harvest collection. So if there's a way, I think the need this year is going to be greater than we've ever had. If there's a way of getting that information out into the community, that those drives that we commonly see at the grocery store aren't going to be happening, and that you can go online to download, to donate money. But I don't even know if people are going to be at the grocery stores to maybe accept monetary donations. So I just wanted to mention that, as in case there's a way to let that message be known so that they can get more donations.
Yeah, well, I have personally I do a lot of publicity for them on my own time for Second Harvest, and I have been letting people know. And I know KQED had a great program about that a couple weeks ago that I also went on and chimed in about what a great service they offer, Second Harvest. But they were saying that part of the reason is also that with a monetary donation, they can actually go out and buy food at a much cheaper price than you and I would be able to buy. So they were encouraging the monetary donation.
But are you able to?
Oh, I was
Can
going to
that
say,
be shared on Community Services Facebook or something?
I was just going to say, I need to double check if we can do this, but perhaps we do a story on what Avita is doing in a newsletter, and we can say,
That
if you want to
sounds great.
support Second Harvest, and push them to the website, which will have that information. That might be a good way to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was actually just
That'd be
thinking that the
great.
media needs to know this whole story if they don't already. Like this whole, y'all can do it or I'll just do it. But we just need to send a quick note to the Almanac and the, the other local papers, even the media. Like that one pager of just everything that you presented needs to be a story that's told to our community.
I agree. It's such amazing work that you are all doing. And I think that Menlo Park residents would be really excited and proud to hear that even in this difficult time, there's so much positive work going to help those who are the most vulnerable.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
Bravo. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you again.
All right.
And if there aren't any other questions, we will let you have the rest of your evening.
Thank you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity. I appreciate that. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
So next up, we have Commissioner Dana Payne's report.
Okay. I don't have too much to report on, as my outings these days are pretty much just walks around Bellhaven. But so I just, on those short little walks, just wanted to mention two things. So I actually went over to Kelly Park twice this week just to check on, the tennis / pickleball courts. And I noticed the first time that I went, there wasn't a way to get into the courts. The door was locked and there wasn't anything there. And then it was kind of funny because there were two probably teenagers who were playing basketball there who quickly came over and asked if I wanted their help getting in the way they usually do by, I guess, climbing over or enlisting a small child to reach their hand through and open it from the inside. So I guess there are creative ways of getting in. But today when I went back, there is a sign now of calling a number for the code to get into the door. So I'm not sure if that was there before and it was somehow taken off, if there's a better way of having a more permanent sign, but I just wanted to put that out there. And then the other thing that I have noticed are the hand washing stations at the playgrounds in Bellhaven, which is fantastic. And I was just thinking though, if it was possible for those stations, because right now there are water, soap, and paper towels. And I was just curious if there's a way or if there's any thought to switching the soap with sanitizer and then omitting the need for water, paper towels, and then maybe even increasing the likelihood of children using it if it's just a quick, squirt and walking away. But so those are just my two very small kind of observations of Bellhaven happenings these days.
Yes, the sign in the lockbox is new this week. And then we actually, I think beginning tomorrow, we'll have sets of pickleball paddles and balls to check out at through the library, which is happening at the senior center curbside pickup. So if people just want to try it out, because right now for the first 6 months, the program is free. So people can access the key to get in. And then loan equipment, which is nice.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Is there somewhere where it's posted that the equipment is on loan? I think I saw something in the newsletter that was posted that said that pickleball's available. It's at Kelly Park, and maybe that it was free, but it didn't say anything about equipment.
Right, the equipment wasn't quite ready for prime time yet when that newsletter went out. So that's coming in the next few days, I believe.
And the other
Okay.
thing we will be adding is, and maybe Peter will be able to help, but kind of like pickleball rules, and then we'll mention the equipment that they can go pick it up at the senior center.
Yeah, I think it would be, for a lot of residents, like, hey, let's go try this and we don't have to buy anything. I think that's great. And especially when we're during this trial period where we're trying to evaluate the interest.
Oh, that also reminds me, I noticed Kelly Park, the parking that goes into the park so that you can park close to the basketball courts and the tennis courts is closed off. Is that something that is COVID related, or is that, I wasn't sure why it's.
Yeah, it is. That's a great observation. It is sort of indirectly COVID related in that we were having pretty major problems with unauthorized groups using the field and not practicing the protocols or face coverings and all of that, which really made it inaccessible to other users like families or groups that actually had rented, the field and done, all the protocols and filled out all the forms. So it was such an issue that we made the determination, let's just close that back gate for now because otherwise it was too difficult to prevent that.
Okay. Well, that's too bad.
Yeah, temporary, but it was a solution to kind of prevent super spreading from happening on the field out there.
So am I to understand that the access to the pickleball court during this trial period is there's still a key or a code and people just have to get it? They're not going to be charged for it, but they still have to.
Correct. So normally, well, you play tennis. So normally folks buy a tennis key, and staff was made a strong recommendations to still keep it locked, because I think sometimes like scooters or bikes and things like that go on the court, and we just have them striped. So there is a key, and it's basically in a lockbox that is attached right at the door lock.
Oh, I see.
So when you call the hotline number, it gives you the code of how to get in.
Right.
So we have a pickleball hotline.
We have a pickleball hotline. It's
Just
actually
checking,
the field rental
just checking.
house.
Meeting adjourned.
My work is done. Like, Peter, you should be so
Call me
proud.
on the pickleball hotline. Thank you, Dana. So next we have an update on the Transportation Master Plan and Middle Avenue Bike Lane Project. A good attachment for everyone to have reviewed prior on that. Adrian or Sean, did you want to add anything to that?
I don't really have anything to add. I know it was a request just to get an update on what was happening. And so our senior traffic engineer provided that for us.
Okay, great. Does anyone have any questions?
I have a question. I'm not sure, Sean or Adrian, if you know anything about this, but with respect to the middle bike sort of tunnel that's going to be part of the Stanford project that the city sort of negotiated with Stanford so as to make that possible. Can you give us a quick update on that? Do you have an idea what's going on there?
I couldn't give you a detailed update on that, but we can certainly get a more detailed update on the status of that project. I know it's something that had been sort of paused in the beginning of the pandemic, but I know that the city council has touched on it a few times in a discussion about like their priorities for the year. It's alive and well, but I'm sorry, I can't give you any details here tonight, but we can certainly get that out to the commission.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And sorry, my computer just froze on me. We also have and this was attached as well, so everyone should have been able to have read this prior, the Library and Community Services Department Strategic Plan for 2020 and beyond. Sean, you have anything to add or highlight from that for us?
This is thank you. This is primarily a first look at the working draft for the commission to read, absorb, ask any questions about. We should have maybe calendared this when we were on the agenda calendar. I know it's there in the unscheduled items. Right now, we're anticipating bringing back a more finalized version either in January or February. So primarily, this is just to get it in front of the commission so you can kind of see how it's structured at this point. As mentioned in the staff report, this is kind of a 6-phase process, with the first phase being review our existing plans, master plans, etc. Second phase, engaging the team members, the staff, to kind of put something together for the community to respond to. And so now we're kind of in phase 3, and phase 3, which is collecting feedback from the commissioners, key stakeholders in the general public over the next few months. And that's why we're putting this framework out so that you have something to kind of respond to. It's organized into 8 major strategic directions. And then underneath each of those directions are some like kind of primary goals to get there. And then those are broken out into tasks, performance measurements, and timeframes for when they would happen. Happy to answer any questions based on the read of the report. We will do a more robust presentation when it comes back, but we did want to get it in front of you so you have a chance to look through it.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you, Sean. Does anyone have any questions at this time on it?
I just had a quick question. So Sean, you mentioned an initial review of master plans. And then so I'm also seeing, so for example, under like strategic direction 1, I'm just wondering if there are things that are in here that that may have already been covered in the master plan, and if you would take that and move forward. For example,
Yes.
the customer satisfaction with community services, I believe that that was a big part of the master plan process, in terms of what people value that's existing and what residents want that doesn't currently exist.
Correct, absolutely. So all of those elements, the intent is for them to be reflected in the department strategic plan without necessarily duplicating, effort, because the facilities master plan is very facilities oriented. And I know somewhere in here we talk about, I think most of the facilities master plan items ended up under strategic direction 4, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
But yeah, previously the library had a strategic plan in place. And so that's what that initial phase was, just to make sure we're not leaving anything behind. And this doesn't replace the master plan at all. This is really more of an omnibus for the department's operations, which the master plan's a part of course. And just a reference to some of the earlier conversation this evening, I'll just call to your attention that strategic direction number 6 is really focused on communication with the community. So that might be an area that commissioners will maybe focus on. And then I believe strategic direction number 7 is incorporating diversity, equity, and inclusion in all of our programming. So just calling that to your attention as a great opportunity to really get into some of the details of how to actually implement and carry out this particular strategic direction.
Thank you. And then lastly, we have the Library and Community Services Department updates. Not as, we were able to read through them, not as exciting of news as we wanted at this point, but hopeful that the new year brings some changes for us.
So I'll just add a little bit of new information to
you.
that, which you may have heard. Of course, the COVID-19 pandemic, it's surging right now in a pretty big way in California and the Bay Area. You may have heard that the governor has issued curfews for counties that are in the purple tier. San Mateo County is not currently in the purple tier. However, the trend indicates almost certainly San Mateo also will be going to the purple tier here within the next couple of weeks, which I would assume that would mean the curfew would apply there as well. But the other piece of information I just wanted to share that's not already in the report based on that is that moving back to the red tier or even moving back to the purple tier doesn't actually require us to change any of our currently offered services. The way we have structured kind of the services that we offer now, we've been pretty conservative and cautious in reopening because we did not want to be in a position where we'd reopen and then have to reclose facilities because we've long anticipated a second or I guess third wave, depending how you define it, happening around this time of year, and it has arrived. So, playgrounds are not going to reclose. The child cares will remain open. The senior center will continue delivering meals to seniors. The outdoor and virtual activities are still happening. So just so you're aware, even if the county moves back to the purple tier, that in and of itself wouldn't necessarily result in a need to reduce services at this time. Not saying who knows if things get even worse and they do a full-blown shelter-in-place order, then all bets are off. But right now, it doesn't indicate a change in what we're doing currently.
That's actually a positive update to this.
Yeah, right.
I do appreciate that.
Yeah, and there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I think the news about the vaccine is incredibly promising. It's just that I'll mix my metaphors here, but it's a little bit of rough seas until we get to that place, over the winter. So, but we're prepared. It's just been incredible how much the community in Menlo Park has really done everything we can to stop the spread of the pandemic. But we're interconnected with everyone else in the Bay Area in that regard. So we're anticipating that it'll get a little bit worse before it gets better, but it's pretty hopeful that by the middle of next year, we'll be able to kind of return to some of the things that we were doing before.
Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question, Sean?
Yes.
I realize this isn't strictly speaking a community services issue, but I've been seeing this at the parks. Is Menlo Park planning to do any enforcement at all about mask ordinances?
It's so challenging. And in fact, the mask order from the state actually did get stricter. Now people are required to carry a mask and wear it at all times outside of the home, except when they're 6 feet away from others outdoors. And even then there's some exceptions. There's just not the resources to really police that or enforce it or hand tickets out, even though that's technically possible. I think my understanding of the intent of those are for the really egregious violations, where someone might go into like a crowded place of business and like just deliberately, cause problems. But like in the parklands where people are outdoors and it's, it's a lot more difficult to enforce, if someone's within 5 feet of someone else.
Right.
It's been such a challenge for us, the skate park, some of these other locations. So
I do
short answer is kind of like it's too difficult.
Okay.
Yeah.
I drive by Sharon Park regularly, and the violations are egregious. Large groups of children who are not related to each other and multiple caregivers hanging out, and nobody's wearing masks. And and again, this is not community services, but I don't see any presence. I have never seen anyone from parks or police at that park, even just discussing it with residents. But I do hear of that kind of activity occurring on the other side of Menlo Park, and it just brings me back to the equity issue that we have in the city. And I don't know, it doesn't feel good to me, I guess. Is all I can say.
Yeah, that you raise a really valid question here, Commissioner Johnson, which is really about if there are some, so there's a park ranger on contract, and that managed by Public Works. Mm-hmm. They kind of manage those parklands. And initially, I believe it had to do with Bedwell Bayfront Park,
yes.
Which was, there were a lot of issues in the early days of the pandemic. And then, so that's really the purpose of the park ranger at that time.
Yes.
Then we were beginning to have a lot of problems with the road groups at Kelly Field, specifically at Kelly Park. I think because of its turf, it's the nicest athletic field by far. And so the park rangers' visits to that area are in response to the athletic field issue, not necessarily just open parklands. But Sharon Park does come up a lot. It comes up a lot, and just tonight you reiterating that. To be honest, I hadn't heard complaints about it in the past, I would say 4 weeks or so, but that doesn't mean it's not happening just because it hasn't reached my ears. But here it is.
I've made multiple complaints about it and have never once heard anything in response. But
okay, so that's an issue. So I really appreciate you bringing it to our attention, because at least some level of talking to folks. There was additional signage put up. That seems not to.
I know that there was additional signage.
It doesn't seem to be doing the trick, is my point. Yeah. Yes,
that does not seem to be effective at this location. And I guess the equity issue is, well, it would be great if everybody wore masks and we could quash this thing. That would be great. But the equity issue really does bother me. And again, I understand that this isn't community services, but we have friends who are on the other side of town who are darker skinned than I am, who are getting stopped by police, stopped by people in the parks, and told that they should not be there doing whatever it is they're doing. And that kind of monitoring isn't happening on the other side of town. And it just, like I said, it doesn't feel good to me. And it would be nice if it was a little bit more even. So
When you say that there are more signs going up, what exactly are those signs saying? Are they simply, hey,
Keep
please wear a
6 feet away.
mask? Or
yeah, wear a mask and keep 6 feet away, pretty much.
why don't we provide on that sign the number for that sheriff or whoever, the rangers?
Because they
or the
won't do
whoever-
anything even if they come.
Oh,
And I actually
well,
just want to say something like, I don't want us to sound like a bunch of people that are telling on each other right now. And I
Yeah,
don't think
no, I
anyone
understand.
can actually make a comment on any of this with any amount of certainty, because we all are not policing on either side of town being able to make like a very strong blanket statement about any of this. We don't know who pod together, who have decided that they are going to be families together. Families don't even look like each other. My family doesn't look like one another. So a lot of this can be perception and miscommunication. So I think the kindest, nicest, safest way is that people should just be educated about it and told to please wear a mask, and not judged on who they are with, what they are doing, as long as what they are doing is legal. So I'm more, I've heard we should be wearing masks outside, and I think we should be promoting or asking for the city to help educate and tell people to wear masks. But I just feel a conversation took kind of a turn where we're being accusatory, or maybe commenting on something where we may not know the truth.
That is one aspect I think that makes the enforcement a little bit difficult. And I think if we're going to sort of look at one of the reasons why that's the case, I think it does have to do to some extent with the state's guidelines and things like, social bubble. Frankly, it's a terrible idea, because there's just no way, it's just a massive loophole that there's just no way you could really prove or even confront somebody about that without the whole conversation just becoming what you sometimes see in your Twitter feed, where people are just flying off the handle. So it's just a very difficult and untenable situation. But in regard to Sharon Park in particular, it is a little bit different of a facility in that there isn't an athletic field there. However, the number of complaints in that location in particular, I think it clearly needs some additional attention. We had a similar issue, obviously, with Kelly Field, and tried to address it in some ways, also at the skate park at Burgess. And so, our approach has been do everything we can to educate and try to address like when hotspots kind of pop up. And it kind of seems like Sharon Park continues to be a hotspot. It's primarily Public Works that kind of manages that location, because we really don't have any parks and recreation like program facilities there. But this feedback's really valuable. We'll take it back to our counterparts over in Public Works and see what we can do to do something more, whether it's get the ranger over there or increased education, some kind of intervention. So, but again, in a way that's, as Chair Baskin mentioned,
well,
mindful that there's so many loopholes and exceptions here, and it's hard to say who should be with who outside, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's frustrating. As you say, we moved from yellow to purple to red. It seems to be getting worse and not better after months and months and months. And it's hard. It's frustrating.
Well, thank you, everyone. I hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving, wonderful December holiday time. And if we haven't missed anything, it is now 7:55, and we can adjourn November's meeting.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Bye.